Now let's start working on our player, but before that, remember in the previous video we added a player camera, and this is currently enabled. So I'm going to drag my player prefab to make the change, and I am going to select the camera and disable it. Why we are doing it, I will show you in a moment. So let's apply that and delete our player. So now we want to move our player with keyboard input, and so for that we need a script. So I am going to create a new C# script, and I am going to name it cowboy, which is our character. Now let's open it up in Visual Studio. So the first thing we need to do is we are going to enable our player camera. So for that we are going to change the start function to awake, and we are going to enable the camera. So for that we need a reference to our player cam, so we are going to say public game object and player cam, and we are going to enable the camera, but we only want this to be enabled if the view is ours. So what I mean by that is, let's say this is my screen and this is my friend playing with me. So whenever we instantiate our player, so on my screen I will have two players. One of the player will be mine, and the other will be of my friend. So both of the players will have camera. So if we let this camera, so if we make it enabled by default, then on my instance I will have two player and I will have two cameras. So in the scene we only have to have one camera. So in here I will check if the view is mine, it means that the player is controlled by me. On other words, it is the local player. So I'm going to simply say if photon view, so we cannot access the photon view. So for that we are going to inherit from mono behavior pun, and also we are going to say using photon dot pun. So now we can access our photon view dot is mine. So only then we are going to enable the camera. So this statement will make sure that on my instance I will have only one camera enabled and only on my player. So on we don't want others player camera, we only want our player camera to be enabled. Now after that we are going to check for inputs. So for that we are going to do the same thing if photon view dot is mine. So why? Because both of the characters, so let's say we have one character right here and the second character right here, so both of the players will have the same script. So if we press the left key, so because the script on the both player will be same, so both player will be start moving towards left. So we only want to control our player, so that's why we are checking if the photon view dot is mine. Then we are going to check for inputs, and we are going to generate this method check inputs. Now in the check input we are simply going to get the movement from keyboard. So I am going to say where movement and the movement is going to be new vector 2, and in here we are going to say input dot get axis raw and horizontal, and on y we don't want to move at y. So now we are getting the get axis raw method, so this method will only return 1, -1 or 0. So unlike the get axis method which will smooth your values, so we don't want to smooth our values, we want our player to move either left or right and with the constant speed. So the next thing is going to be the transform dot position of our player. So we are going to update the player, and plus equals is going to be the movement times move speed, and we are going to declare the move speed variable and with time dot delta time. Now let's copy this and declare a public float variable move speed, and let's set it to 5. Now so plus equal movement into move speed, so vector 2 movement, so we are going to change it to vector 3, and now we are going to check for keys, because right now if I drag my player, now you can see that our player is facing towards right side, and we can actually turn our player left right by using the sprite render on our cowboy and using the flip property. So flip x is when true, the player is going to face towards left, and if it is false, the player is going to be right. Now to do that we need a reference to this sprite renderer component. So first here let's say public sprite renderer, and let's say sprite, and now we are going to check for input. So if we are pressing the D key, then we want this sprite to flip x to false. So let's say if input dot get key down, and the key code is D, key code dot D, then the flip x is going to be false. So sprite dot flip x is going to be false. Now copy the same line and paste it, and if the key is A, so it means we are moving towards left, so the flip is going to be true, so we are going to flip our sprite. Now let's come back to our editor and apply everything, and let's delete the player, and we are going to drag this cowboy script to our player. So actually we need our player back, so go to the resources and drag it right here, and let's drag this script to our player. Now we need to assign these two values, so I'm going to assign it from this prefab. So select the cowboy player and let's drag the cowboy for sprite, and the player cam is going to be this camera, and let's hit the apply button to make the changes, and let's delete our player. So now I am going to build the game and let's see what we have. Now before building I forgot to do one very important step. So let's drag our player back in our hierarchy, because without the photon view component we cannot instantiate our player on network. So photon will only instantiate those objects who has photon view. So we will have an error right at this line, because we are going to instantiate it using photon network, but our this player prefab does not have a photon view component. So I'm going to select my player and add component, and let's search for photon view. So this photon view is going to be responsible for updating the state of this player on other users screen, and let's set it to fixed, and that's it. Now we're going to test it in the next video.